Hello, welcome back to another video on the Paolo Soprani accordion restoration. So one of the things I like about doing the little videos is that get questions, lots of little questions about things, and one of the questions that came up was what kind of wax am I using when I'm heating it up in my wax heater for waxing in the reeds, and I also use this wax for attaching the pallets to the pallet arms. So what I do is I buy beeswax, so I buy it in blocks like this, and then I also buy some pine rosin like this, and I do a 70-30, so 70% beeswax, 30% rosin. So if I had 70 grams of beeswax, I'd have 30 grams of rosin, and so for that 100 grams in total, 70 beeswax, 30 rosin, I'd also put in a tablespoon of vegetable oil into the mix, and then all I do is pop it into the wax heater and then just heat it up for quite a while to get it really melted, and mix it all in thoroughly, get it right up to temperature, and then it's ready for use. So I find it a much more cost-effective way of getting reed wax. I use a lot of it than buying specific accordion reed wax, which is the same combination of chemicals, ingredients, but just a bit cheaper. So there we are, that's my accordion reed wax, and that's how I make it. So let's put that away for now. Right, so put that away as well, I don't need that for now. For the next little video, I'm going to do some work on the bellows. So here we have the bellows, and what I have noticed is I think there's a hole, or maybe more than one hole, in the leather gussets which are in the corners of the folds here, and so any little kind of pinholes there will obviously let air out, which you don't want to happen, and so will negatively affect the compression, so the accordion won't be able to hold the air so well. So the first thing I'm going to do is have a look for some of these pinholes, and then see if I can just fix them, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. And the second thing is, if I find an example, I'm going to zoom in here, so I'll just show you. Let's see how I can do this in. There we go. I don't know if you can see, there we go, that the bellows tape should be covering the corners, and these two here, the bellows tape is kind of worn away from those corners, and so those particular two there, they'll be at a risk of coming loose. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some tiny little patches over those just to neaten it all up and make sure that all the corners are covered. Rather than having to replace the whole tape, I'm just going to put some little patches on, and luckily I found some bellows tape which is the same colour, so I'll show you that as well. So the first thing then is just to have a look for some leaks. So what I would normally do is hold it up to the light and have a look from the inside of the bellows, if you like. So just look and hold it up to the light and see if there's any pinholes in the leather. So it's quite tricky, but this is the best way of doing it. So I'm just going to have a little look. Find a pinhole. I'm sure there was one because he was. And when I found it, I'll show you how I'm going to fix it. Let me just find it. So I found a pinhole, and it's just on this gusset here. So I'll just open it up just there. So I've cut some very soft leather into a diamond, and if I offer it up to that leather gusset, I can see that fits nicely over that kind of diamond shaped cutout on the bellows. So what I'm going to do now is just put some PVA glue onto this, and then I'm going to just stick it on the inside of the bellows there. And we'll just put that there, just get some PVA glue. And I'm going to put it on the slightly suede side of the leather rather than the polished one, because I think that will grip better. So get some PVA glue. This is my Super Eileen's Original Tacky glue, which is very good for crafty kind of leather, fabricy kind of gluing. So put a nice decent amount of glue on this diamond. I'm actually just going to let that set for a minute or two, just to get a bit more tacky. And then what I'm going to do is just going to apply it to the leather. So I'm going to leave them for a minute. I'll come back in about a minute and just let that glue get a little bit more tacky, and then I'll show. Right, okay, so now I've got the patch, and I've got the part of the bellows which is what I need to fix, and I'm just pulling it open as far as I can, and then I'm going to apply the leather diamond into the and then I'm just going to push from both sides just to get a nice purchase. And so I'm just gluing the leather to the leather. So once that's in, I just need to push from both sides so it's actually making a good connection, like so. And then what you'll find is that hopefully, as long as I've applied enough glue and applied enough pressure just to stick the leather to the leather, what you'll get is a very nice fix of that little gusset. I'll just show you what I've done. It's a bit difficult to film it and do it at the same time. So let me just keep applying a little bit of pressure so it actually sticks, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So the leather's got to be thin. You can't have big old thick chunks of leather. It's got to be thin, it's got to be very soft, because it's got to almost mimic the leather that's already in there. And if you just put a massive thick bit of leather in there, it won't fold and bend properly, and also it will just push the bellows out a bit, so the bellows will not close properly. So it's got to be very thin and very, very soft and flexible. So you have to kind of specify that when you buy it, you know, nice, thin, soft, high quality leather. You can buy it as patches for bellows, or you can just buy a sheet of it and cut it out yourself, which is probably cheaper. I'm just going to finish off this compression of the leather. There we go. I'll now turn it around and show you. There we are. So now it's almost like I've put a new gusset in there, but that's now stuck into place like that. And so I'll leave that now before testing it out, let that glue dry. But I will have a look around the rest of the bellows from inside, looking for any chinks of light, and putting any more that I find. And if I find any more, I'll come back and show you. Okay, so let me have a little play with it. Okay, so in the end I found 3 little pinholes, so I can show you them. One there, on there. On there. Now, a little tip, if you do find a pinhole, just get a pencil and just mark on the corner, near that corner, on the cardboard fold, little dots on it, so you can find it easy, because once you found it, if you don't mark it, then you think, oh, where was it? When you turn the bellows around, you can't find the hole again. So just put a little mark on the card, just so you remember where it is. So I think that's all the little pinholes I can find. So apart from that, I think it's in good shape. So that's nice. So next thing, just going to tidy up a little bit, and then I'll show you about doing some patching. Okay. There we go. So for the bellows tape patching, which I've mentioned that just earlier, I'm going to use some bellows tape. Now if I just show you my little bellows tape bag, so what I've tried to do is keep a range of different colours, because you never know what you're going to come across. So some of it is just actually old tape, but it's just a particular colour. I thought that could be useful. So I've got me gold. That's inside out, but that's gold for bellows tape. I've got some nice red, silver. I've got some with silver stripes, gold stripes. I've got some dark red. So I just keep a whole range of different colours. I've got some black, all bits of bobs, just in case I've just got a particular colour that I need for doing some specific taping. Now the taping that I got to do today, I've luckily found a nice, really good match. I'll just show you that. I'm going to just tidy up my bits of bellows tape first. I'll just put those back in the bag, and I found the bits that I need. Lots of little bits of tape in here just in case. I'll just keep hold of it. Another little tip is, if you're keeping some old bellows that you can't use anymore to spare, sometimes I keep old bellows because I can just harvest the corners off them, but also you can just carefully peel off some of the bellows tape if it's just the right colour that you need for your particular accordion. So just by carefully peeling off, you can just create yourself a little patch, which will then might match really well. Right, so let's show you what I've got here then. So just so this is the colour of the bellows tape, nice kind of red, ruby red, and this is the colour of the bellows tape I've got to do the patches, and it's a very close match actually, so I think it's going to look really nice. So I'm happy with that. So let me just find some pieces that I'll show you how I'm going to patch. Right, so here's one. Bring it down to there. Zoom it in. So just here, that one, that one, that one, and that one, they're just losing a bit of the tape over the corner. So I'm just going to get my nice colour of bellows tape, and because I'm going to put 4, what I want to do is make sure I cut them, the 4 bits the same length, so that it looks neat, so it just looks like a professional job. So I'm just going to get my ruler and move that to one side, just zoom and I'm going to just make sure I cut. So I'm just going to draw a little line and cut the same. So how long shall I do? Do 1.5 centimeters each one. Go the Russian square. Two. One more. There. Right, so I've got my 4 little patches. There you go. So I'm going to get my trusty glue. Where's my glue pot gone? Doopy-doopy-doo. There we go. And what I'll also need is some clamps. So I've got my bag of clamps, because I'll need some clamps to hold the patches on with. Just put this down there for a minute. Right, so some glue on here. So nice and easy, but effective. Just put a nice coating of glue right to the edges, because you don't want the edges peeling up. There you go. I'm going to do the first one. So you've got to offer it up so it's in line with all the other patches. Just close the bellows to make sure it actually lines up. Maneuver it into position. There we go. And I'm just going to put a couple of little clamps. There we go. And just leave those for half an hour or so. Maybe less than that. So that's all I'm going to do. Just going to then do the next ones. If I could do that one next as well. And then just carry on around the bellows, just finding any little bits that might need patching. And yeah, that's it really. Nice and easy, but it makes a massive difference, because if those corners came loose, then you've got all kinds of problems, and it also looks a lot neater. Put that one on as well. There we go. Right, so I'll leave those to dry, then once I'm done I'll do the ones in the middle, and I'll show you when I've done me bellows patching. Right, give me a tick. Okay, so now I've done my patching, so it's come out really nicely. I've got some, show you what I've done here, just continuing it. And also just in here, you can see it's kind of blends in very nicely, so it's nice to get that done. So I've done that for all around the bellows, so the bellows are now, I've given them a clean. I've just cleaned into the folds, done some nice patching on the edges, and I've just done some little bits of fixing of the pinholes on the inside. So that's all looking a whole heap better, which is nice. And they do feel nice and springy actually. I like that. So the next step is the last bit of bellows work, where I'm going to change the bellows gasket. So once I get that done now as well, because that looks pretty old. So the first thing is to get the old stuff off. Now this is quite easy. Just need to get a little flat blade. Just underneath. There you go. See how easy that comes off. This has been on for such a long time. It's kind of the original bellows gasket, so I'm going to put some new on. So what I'm going to do here is just go around. Now it's a bit thicker on that side than that side, so I'm going to have thinner, and a thicker bit on that side. So just make a note of that. It definitely needs to be changed. It's pretty old. and you can see whooey, that the bellows frame at this side is wider than on that side. So, a bit of a clue there really. So once you've got the bellows tape off, so as much as you can, so you just use your blade to carefully scrape away any residue. Then the next step is to get some sandpaper. So let's have a bit of, what should I have? A bit of this one. I've got some 100 grit. Let's just cut a bit of this. A few bits of 100 grit. Just a few strips. That should be enough for now. Well, yeah. Let that back up there. So, and then I'm just going to fold it over to get a nice edge. I'm just going to take off any remaining bits of leather and glue, so that when I put the new stuff on, a nice little key and a clean surface to attach to the new bellows gasket. Brush, just going to push all that away. Okay, so that's all cleaned. I'm just going to tidy up my rubbish a little, and then I'll find some bellows gasket and I'll show you what comes next. Okay, so I've given it all a nice clean. I'm going to go for this bellows tape, which is 2mm thick and 7mm wide. So just get this ready. Just move all this other stuff just to one side for a minute. So we're going to get it ready. So I'm going to start in the middle. And I'm actually going to do the same thickness all the way around, because I think it will work without having to have two different bits, which I think would be messy. So I'm going to start off with a nice straight cut like that, and then I'm going to start in the middle of this one, and then I'm going to work my way around frame. neat. So although it will stick out a little bit, it will give just a nice consistent bellows gasket all the way around without having to break it into bits and bobs, and guarantee that I get a nice seal around the bellows frame. So I think it's the best option, rather than just have little bits of this size and bits of that size. I think that would be a tricky thing. So just bring it around here, around to the beginning. Like that. Then bring that around, and then I'm going to try and just overlap it slightly, and then I can just tidy this bit up. And then as I get to the end point, make sure it's all in place, and then carefully offer it up. And then I can make a little cut just so it's just perfectly. There we go. Push that down nice and flat. There we are. So that's bellows gasket for that side. All looking nice. And I'll do the same thing for the other side, and then I'll show you when I've done both sides. Oh, just turn the football down. Hang on, I had a football on the radio. Yeah, well, so bellows gasket is now done. So I've done quite a bit of work on the bellows in this little session, just to get the bellows as nice as I can. So hope that was useful. And in the next video, before I put everything back together, I'm going to have a look at just fixing the bellows straps, because I think I'm going to have to, the one's missing from this side, and this one was really tight when I tried to take it off. It was like jamming, I don't remember that bit. So that's going to need a bit of work. So I'm going to have a look at the bellows straps before I can then put everything back together and just give it a little blow. So next one, I'm going to have a look at the bellows straps, maybe a little bit more body stuff, and then maybe in that next one I'll also just put the reeds back in and just give it a little test. Okay, see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.